A gift with a surprise. In 1945, Soviet schoolchildren presented American Ambassador Averell Harriman with a wooden plaque depicting the U.S. coat of arms as a token of gratitude for aid during the war. The American official was so touched that he thanked the pioneer camp with a check for a whopping $10,000. Stalin's translator, not without malice, suggested to the ambassador that he hang the gift right in his office, assuring him, "The British will be green with envy." Sure enough, the American ambassador did hang the plaque in his office. However, it wasn't until 7 years later that it was discovered that inside the plaque was a listening device called an endovibrator. A miniature antenna inside the plaque vibrated from the sound of voices in the office. Microwaves were directed at the vibrating antenna from a neighboring building, and they would bounce back slightly altered, allowing voices to be picked up without needing any battery. This made the device almost undetectable by standard methods. Incidentally, from the early 1970s, lasers began to be used for eavesdropping in the same way, with the window glass acting as the antenna. This led the CIA to build a facade of fake windows around its headquarters, preventing the laser from hitting the inner glass that vibrated from the sounds inside. The device was accidentally discovered by British specialists in 1952. During this time, 4 officials had changed in the office. This goes to show how careful one should be with gifts from military allies. But you're wrong if you think that only the Soviets did such things during the Cold War. 8. Operation Gold. In the 1950s, the CIA and British intelligence built a tunnel under East Berlin to tap into Soviet and East German communications. They literally dug a 500-yard-long tunnel that allowed them to intercept phone and telegraph messages. But why dig it there? The KGB had developed the most famous spy network in East Germany. By 1989, every 50th resident was a spy, with a total of, attention, 300,000 informants. The US tried to quietly obtain information from this buzzing spy nest, which was actively exchanging information. The operation was successful for almost a year, during which they obtained over 6 million hours of conversations. After a year, the operation was uncovered by Soviet double agent George Blake, who passed information about the tunnel to the KGB. To protect their mole, they organized a team that accidentally discovered the tunnel, so that they saved him. 7. Industrial espionage. What do silk, tea, Gillette razors, and the Concorde have in common? These are technologies that became victims of industrial espionage. They were stolen and copied by competitors. In the ancient world, silk was highly valued as China was the sole supplier and strictly guarded its production secrets. But nothing lasts forever. In the 6th century, 2 enterprising monks delivered the secret of Chinese silk to Byzantine Emperor Justinian. They shook out a couple of mulberry silkworm cocoons from their bamboo staffs, the moths that produce the silk threads. Thus, due to a few bugs and a couple of spies, China lost its monopoly. In the mid-19th century, the Chinese lost another monopoly, on tea. Disguised as a Chinese merchant, Scottish agent Robert Fortune stole tea seedlings and delivered them to British-controlled India. There, tea began to be mass-produced and supplied in abundance to the British, ensuring everyone had enough for 5 o'clock tea. So, all Indian tea is historically Chinese. After all, there was no tea in India until it was stolen by a British spy. 6. Operation Mincemeat, or fooling Hitler. There was an instance in history when spies managed to fool Hitler during World War II. The British dressed a drunkard's corpse in a naval officer's uniform, placed fake documents in the pockets under the name Major William Martin, along with photos of his fiancée and touching letters. They attached a briefcase with fake documents to the corpse's hand, indicating that British troops planned to land in Greece instead of Sicily. A submarine released the body off the coast of Spain, which was swarming with German agents, and the British spread the word about a plane crash at sea. There was no crash, as you can guess. Everything was so convincing that the Germans took the bait and sent troops to Greece. As a result, the Allies were able to capture Sicily, losing only about 1,000 men. Due to the corpse's terrible condition, the operation was named Mincemeat. 5. Fake balloons. In the 1950s, the US came up with an interesting way to circumvent the Soviet air defense system. They inflated balloons with fake radars and transmitters to divert the attention of Soviet air defenses, thereby concealing real reconnaissance flights. These balloons created false targets on radars, making it difficult for the Soviets to identify real threats and allowing American reconnaissance planes to penetrate Soviet airspace. In 1960, the spy plane Lockheed U-2, piloted by Francis Gehry, was shot down by a Soviet missile. The US was forced to publicly admit that they were conducting surveillance over the USSR. Soon, with the advent of satellites, the US began to actively develop satellite surveillance, taking thousands of pictures of target areas daily without fear. Soon, high-altitude observation became available to almost everyone. What for? Pigeon espionage. In the past, when something forbidden needed to be observed, intelligence resorted to a special gadget. This wasn't hipster pigeon or something from a silly museum, but the first drone in history. A pigeon with mini cameras sent to photograph enemy positions during World War I. Photos were taken automatically at regular intervals and were so successful that pigeon photographers served in the next World War and even worked for the CIA until the 1950s. How did spy pigeons know where to fly for reconnaissance? Here's how it happened. A dovecote was placed on one side of the enemy. A pigeon was taken from there, brought to the other side of the enemy. A camera was hung on the bird, and it was released. The pigeon flew straight to its dovecote, orienting itself by the sky and terrain. Meanwhile, the camera took photos. By the way, pigeon mail worked the same way. 3. Atomic espionage. Shortly after World War II, pigeons retired, but the invisible war of spies was just gaining momentum. Military and industrial espionage merged into something new and explosive. Yes, nuclear espionage. Here's a riddle for you. How do you steal the most guarded weapon in history, on which many Americans are working, yet they don't even know what the device looks like as a whole? And they don't know they're participating in the nuclear project. The answer is simple. Find like-minded individuals in its brain center. Nuclear weapons are too important a secret for only the US to possess. Monopolizing such knowledge is very dangerous for the world, and the scientists at the top of the Manhattan Project understood this. One of them, Klaus Fuchs, was a committed communist and offered to share the secrets with Soviet envoys. Klaus leaked bomb sketches through 2 of his colleagues, speeding up the creation of the bomb in the USSR by several years. And the code for one agent to recognize another was a package of raspberry jelly cut in a special way. They matched both parts, and if they fit, the code worked. After that, the secrets shamelessly flew to the USSR via diplomatic mail or encoded telegrams. By the way, every embassy is constantly bugged by the host country's intelligence, and both sides understand this. It's part of the game. When the Americans intercepted coded messages from the Soviet embassy, they were shocked. Red spies had infiltrated all branches of US government, and Klaus Fuchs' name came up among them. He was imprisoned, though not for long, only 9 years. But Klaus was just a small fry compared to another atomic spy, Pakistani Abdul Qadir Khan. In the 1980s, Abdul got a job at a European nuclear lab and saw how a key component for creating a bomb worked, a centrifuge for producing weapons-grade uranium. After India's archenemy Pakistan conducted its first nuclear test, Khan stole all the blueprints and supplier contacts, bringing them home and launching the production of the first Islamic atomic bomb. Abdul Khan became a hero to his people, giving them a trump card in the conflict with India. But this wasn't enough for the spy. Over a couple of decades, he organized a black market for selling nuclear secrets, trading with China, North Korea, and Iran. Remember the scandals surrounding Iran's nuclear program that have been ongoing for 20 years? It's all thanks to the unassuming Abdul Khan. But intelligence can't always rely on or bribe important people to share secrets. Often, these secrets have to be taken without permission. For this, new generation spy gadgets were invented. I'll talk about them in the next video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. 2. Double spies are traitors twice. These are spies who worked for both sides. Often, spies pursued personal goals beyond ideological ones and deliberately exchanged data. There's an amazing example in history, Aldrich Ames. He worked at the CIA for 30 years and oversaw all those spying in the USSR, but secretly collaborated with the KGB, his agency's main enemy. Ames revealed the names of 30 American spies working in the USSR, at least 10 of whom were executed. Why did he betray his colleagues? It's simple, the KGB paid him well. He bought a second house for $500,000 and a Jaguar for $50,000. This is how the CIA uncovered him. They noticed that their agent was living beyond his means. 1. Cyborg cats. The Americans retaliated against the USSR with the help of cats, cyborg cats. Yes, listen, the operation was officially called Acoustic Kitty and cost the CIA $20 million. Cats were implanted with a microphone in their ear, a transmitter in their chest, and an antenna in their tail, fortunately, without a camera in their ass. The plan was to send such acoustic kittens to the Soviet embassy to eavesdrop on diplomats' conversations. If you know anything about cats, you've probably already guessed that cyber cats just wandered off on their own. They didn't care about the CIA's plans at all. So, of course, the CIA had to abandon this ridiculous idea.